With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Ameristar Casino, Council Bluffs, Iowa. Wow, what a Thursday show we have got for you today. We are brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. LSU is headed to the College World Series final after one of the wildest games you will ever see last night at Charles Schwab Field. They take down Omaha. We're talking about it for the next 90 minutes. We are going to talk a little bit of Saints with Luke Johnson coming up in the next segment, but the rest of the way is pretty much LSU baseball-centric. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball with us at 1:30, as he always is. And we'll talk with Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, at 2:15. Plenty to get to. And we are fired up that you are here with us. I think there are probably a good number of you that are now headed north to Omaha over the next 24 to 48 hours. If that's the case, do so very, very safely and with a big old smile on your face, because LSU did a heck of a job last night. Let's talk about it. We'll start the same way we start every single day. That is, of course, with our Genesis opening drive.
Rouge.
Man, oh man, I don't even know where to begin. Look, I think last night, as I try to put my arms around the entirety of it, was probably a perfect encapsulation of the last 40 years of LSU baseball and the last 20 years of Arkansas baseball. And that's a little bit harsh toward Arkansas probably, but I don't know what else to say. LSU, over the last 40 years, has been here 20 times and won 7 national championships. You go back to Todd Walker hitting the grand slam or the walk-off single. You go back to, obviously, Warren Morris. You go back to Brad Cressy and Brad Hopp's theatrics in 2000. And you look at the unbelievable things that LSU did in 2009 with DJ LeMahieu getting the big double in the 9th inning of Game 1 and Mata coming through with the single to bring home the winning run in Game 1. And you look at the unbelievable performance of Ty Floyd in the championship series, Tommy White's walk-off to get him there. Like, you just go through the moments and the moments and the moments that get LSU to the promised land, and that's why they got a big freaking sign in right field of Alec Box Stadium with a massive amount of national championships up there, and you can drive over to Fayetteville and you'll find the nice facility you're going to find, and there's not one championship flag to be flown in there. And that's because Arkansas is a great program. And they get to Omaha, and they don't do it. And LSU is a great program, and they get to Omaha, and they do it. And last night was a perfect encapsulation of that. You look at last night, and you look at what Landon Beidelshees gave Arkansas. Sensational effort. It was his best outing of the year. Best outing of the year for Beidelshees. This is a guy who did not go a scoreless outing against an SEC team all year. And he worked into the 6th inning without allowing a run. Now, he ran out of gas in the 6th, and those 2 runs that were inherited by Gabe Gackle did come around to score thanks to Jake Brown, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Beidle-Sheets was sensational. And Gackle came in and punched out 4 and looked really good. And they got huge hits late in that game. Justin Thomas out of the 9-hole just with 2 phenomenal ABs, and he drives in what looked to be the winning 2 runs in the 9th inning. It's great plays by Arkansas. But on top of those great plays, you've got mental errors. Wahiva Aloy, SEC Player of the Year, best player on that team, first-round pick in a couple of weeks. Ground ball to him. He doesn't do the winning thing. He doesn't do the championship thing and start the double play. He does the easy thing and flips it over to third base. Mental error. You look at Charles Davalon in left field. That ball's got to be caught. Now, Luis Hernandez, ton of credit to Luis Hernandez. He's facing a tough arm, and he ripped it, hit a missile. Ton of credit to Luis Hernandez for that. But the ball hit Charles Davalon in the shoulder. He's a college outfielder. Doesn't make the play. And then Jared Jones comes through with what LSU just does up here, and he knocks the ball on a breaking ball away just out of the reach of Cam Kojal into center field for a hit to bring home the winning run. Arkansas was great last night until they had to be. LSU was great last night and then was great when they had to be. And that's an encapsulation of what LSU has been as a national championship program and the standard in the sport. And Arkansas cannot get over the hump. And I thought Dave Van Horn made a critical error, my opinion, and Jay Johnson did a great job, my opinion. And it came on Jake Brown's 2-run single that gave LSU that lead. And I thought that that was a coaching error by Dave Van Horn to allow it to get to that point. Because Stanfield's coming up, and he goes to Gackle, and you have to know, he walks Pearson, and you got Gackle out there, and you have to know that Jake Brown is coming off the bench in that spot. Like, this is not someone buried on LSU's depth chart. This is the guy who is hitting for an elite batting average, who's been awesome in the postseason, who's red hot, and absolutely feasts on right-handed pitching. And Dave Van Horn, instead of electing to have Gackle pitch to Pearson, who's hitting what, 250? He elects to walk Pearson, bring Stanfield up, and you know Jake Brown's coming off that bench. And Dave Van Horn, I think, made a critical error in allowing that to happen. You've got to let him pitch to Pearson with the base open. He didn't. And Jake Brown came up and got a breaking ball over the plate and put a beautiful swing on that thing to put it into the left center field gap. And I have a hard time pointing to Dave Van Horn and going, hey, you got to do a better job with your left fielder catching the ball. You got to do a better job with your shortstop making the decision to throw the ball to second base and start a potential double play. I didn't know in real time if there was going to be a double play possible with Milam running. I'm sitting there in the press box in real time. I didn't know. You go back and watch the replay, absolutely. And those of you that were watching the television copy, which I wasn't, I was in the press box. Obviously, Chris Burke made the point of that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to throw the ball to second base. I have a hard time blaming Dave Van Horn for those two things. I can point directly to him with the decision to allow Jake Brown to come into that ball game. And I hesitate to encapsulate Dave Van Horn's entire career into one decision right there, but it didn't help. And I think Dave Van Horn is a legend in college baseball, the same way I think Mike Martin is a legend in college baseball. And I think that he's put a phenomenal product on the field almost every year for this Arkansas program. And I still have a feeling that he's going to win one of these one day because you're that good that often, it's going to happen. But that was not good last night. And on the flip side, Jay Johnson was brilliant. Brilliant. Because in that spot, he was going to be okay if Brown pinch hit and Dave Van Horn said, okay, you've now pinch hit, you brought in your left-handed bat, I'm going to Gibbler, the left-hander. And Jay was okay with that because he felt like He had seen a lot of Gackle. It was going to be hard for him to come back in a game that would have been Thursday, and now you're getting Gibbler into the game in the middle innings, and he felt like at that point getting those two arms in the game was going to help him on Thursday. He was managing a Wednesday game with Thursday in play, and that's why he is a brilliant coach. He's an awesome recruiter. He's an awesome roster builder. He's an awesome motivator. He's an awesome coach, and he's a great game manager in that way. He did a brilliant job last night. Every button he pushed was good. He got the ball where he wanted to with Chase Shores in the late innings, having a chance to finish the deal. Chase got beat a couple times on really good swings. It wasn't like the regional, where Chase lost the strike zone, walked the bases loaded. No. He got beat because they hit him, because they're really good. But all along, Jay was thinking, I got to go to Shores, and then I'll go to Ianson if it's close to close it. And that was the plan. And he got it to Shores, and then Arkansas had other plans because they're really good. And they changed those plans. He goes to Myers. You get the punch out. By the way, big strikeout to lead that run on third base. And then the offense comes up and puts enough pressure on Arkansas's defense that the best defensive team in college baseball this year melted down. And, man, I'm sitting here. If you're watching the YouTube stream, I'm in my purple and gold today. I'm fired up. I'm thrilled that LSU's moving on to the championship series, and that's my only concern. And I don't feel bad for Arkansas fans because I don't really care about Arkansas fans' feelings. It's not the most journalistically inspired talking point on this. But, I do understand what they're going through, because that day where your dream dies is a really tough one. And Arkansas is not in our situation where we've watched this team hoist a trophy 7 times. They're still looking for number 1. And to have that thing feel like it was within your grasp because you've won with the no-hitter, and then you came back and you won another game with UCLA, and then you've got LSU on the ropes, and you've got a multiple-run lead in the 9th inning, and you feel like, okay, we're hot, and we're going to do this. We're going to put the pressure on LSU, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to have enough bullets in the holster to get by Coastal, and we're going to get this thing done. It's going to be magic. And then it's just ripped away in the period of, 10 minutes in the 9th inning? Being in that ballpark last night was amazing. I tweeted this out with my game story. I wasn't here for Warren Morris. I wasn't here for the Tommy White home run. I was here for Beloso hitting the extra inning homer, but that wasn't a walk-off. If we're just talking about walk-off hits, I wasn't here for Cressy. That's the best one I've ever seen. And you're talking about a program that is just littered with electrifying moments in this town. And last night was a pleasure to watch. And based on the text messages I received in the moments following that single by Jared Jones, it feels like I'm about to get a lot of company up here in Omaha that's dressed in purple and gold. I think that half the state is about to board a plane or hit the road. I've got family members that are coming. I've got friends that are coming. Rivers and Alondra from the station just hopped in a car, and they're driving up here today and tomorrow. I think they will not be alone, and it's going to be an awesome, awesome weekend. This is the first time that who's used the winner's bracket in this format, so now a couple of days off to reset everything. Certainly Coastal has that advantage as well, but it sets up very, very nicely for LSU to take on Coastal Carolina. I'm not going to spend a lot of time today on Coastal Carolina. That's for tomorrow, and then we're going to have a special Saturday preview show just like last week from 2 to 4 right here at the Ameristar in Council Bluffs. But that'll be time. That's 4 hours that I've got to discuss Coastal starting tomorrow. I'm going to spend a lot of time on what LSU did over the last 3 days and certainly last night to get to this spot where they're knocking on the door of national championship number 8. And what a brilliant ball game last night. Just a classic in Omaha, and LSU comes out on the right side of it 6-5, as they've done so many times over the course of their program's history. That is, of course, our Genesis opening drive. Our travels and our shows all week long from the Ameristar in Council Bluffs have been brought to you by our presenting sponsor. That is, of course, Our Lady of the Lake Help. And also, shout out to the folks at Yingling Beer as well as GoFlow IV Spa for making all of this possible. It has been an absolute treat to be here, and I'm getting texts saying, are you sick of Omaha yet? Absolutely not. This is when it gets really, really fun. I'm having a blast and thrilled that y'all are coming along for the ride. So we'll take a time out. We'll come back. We'll chat a little bit of Saints with Luke Johnson, and then we'll continue on with a baseball conversation with Joe Healy in 15 minutes. Don't go anywhere. This is a Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms. Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody, and presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight.
Chugging along here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We are brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Going to be telling you about the fantastic stuff they got going on at Sagrera Farm all show long. But just know, 4th of July is coming up. If you want some of the best beef in America, top 1%, it's right there, just 30 miles outside of Baton Rouge at Sagrera Farms. All right, let's talk a little bit of Saints. We'll change gears and get back to LSU baseball here shortly. Let's talk some Saints with Luke Johnson of The Advocate, good enough to give us some time on these Thursdays. Luke, how we doing? You enjoy the baseball last night?
Well, I don't know if enjoy is the right way to describe like what was happening for a bunch of that night. My group chat that I'm in with a lot of our shared college friends was whatever they were unhinged. Let's just put it that way. Saying some not so kind things about some players until some players totally redeemed themselves. But it was really fun at the end. I'll say that.
Look, it's one of those deals that postseason baseball, it's so brutal and miserable to sit through, and you wouldn't have it any other way. And generally speaking, it works out for the purple and gold. It certainly did last night. We'll see what they can do over the weekend. Let's talk about the black and gold. Let's talk a little receiver, Luke. Obviously, towards the end of last year, it was a mash unit. You have now seen Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. What can you tell us about where they are physically and what kind of role that those two guys can play on this team?
I mean, they look good right now. And, I think it's fair to be like reasonably concerned about whether they can hold up over the course of a full season. And neither of them have played an entire season in their NFL career. But I think if you look at Shaheed, I looked this up yesterday. I think he played out of a possible 35 of his first 35 career games, he played 33 of them. Chris Olave played in 15 and 16 games his first couple of years before dealing with the concussions last year. And obviously the concussions have been a recurring problem throughout his playing days, even going back to Ohio State. So it's a cause for concern. But as far as just holding up, they've shown they can do it at least to a pretty high degree in the NFL. I don't think you can just say, yeah, I think they're going to play all 17 games this year. But it's not unreasonable to say you think they could play 14 or 15, which would be pretty good. And then you just see them move and you see them play and you're like, yeah, well, those guys are super explosive, super dynamic. I would argue one of the more fun 1-2 punches in the NFL when they're on the field together. And you add in the whole Kellen Moore of it all, where he's just shown a way to get his best players to football in ways that'll allow them to succeed throughout the course of their career. So I'm excited about the potential of it. Even if there's a little bit of it that is just, it's just caused you to be uneasy because of the injury history last year.
I wasn't wild about the Brandon Cooks signing. What are your thoughts on what he adds and where he fits?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't really understand it. He's like a older diminished version of the two guys they already have, right? I really thought that this was going to be the year they were finally going to add that kind of possession receiver they've been missing since Michael Thomas wrecked his ankle in week 1 of the 2021 season. It was they just haven't they haven't added that in years. They still don't have it on the roster. I think Cooks maybe could be better than he has been the last 2 years. Injuries were a big problem for him last year. But the fact is he hasn't topped 700 receiving yards since 2021, and he's going to be 32 years old, and he's 5'10", $190. It's he's the same player as Olave and Shaheed from a frame standpoint, from a what he does well standpoint. So that I'm still in a extreme wait and see with that one.
Do you think that the Saints currently have their entire receiving core on the roster, or there's still an anticipation that they might try to go add somewhere?
I mean, I still think there are guys out there who could help. Even if they're not going to be somebody who's going to come in and be one of the primary targets. I think there are guys who fit the skill set that I'm talking about, who could be your chain movers. and they have cap space if they want to spend it. I also think there's a chance though that they're gonna see what Bub Means has. Like he's kind of in that mold that we're talking about. He's not big, but he's like 6'2", like 210, somewhere around there. And in the kind of brief moments that we saw him on the field last year, he looked good. Obviously, he missed the end of the season because of injury. He didn't really get to see it when he had the big opportunity in front of him. But, maybe they just kind of see what they have there with him before they consider adding to it. But I think there are still a lot of guys out there who need homes and, guys who potentially fit what the Saints could use. And, again, they don't even need, somebody who's going to be, a high-volume receiver. Tyler Boyd might be completely cooked, but he's also, exactly what they don't have on the roster right now. If he's your number 4, and you can put him on the field in third down situations when he could be really useful on 3rd and 7, I don't know if I might give that a look.
Yeah, I'm nothing's perfect, but how do you feel about the ecosystem that Tyler Shoug's being dropped into here, from the offensive line to the weapons to the head coach?
Well, I feel really good about Kellen Moore. Every single step of the way, you just look at what he's done throughout his career, with varying offenses and varying strengths and weaknesses of those offenses, and it's been successful every time. So I feel good about that. I feel good about the offensive line. We're going to have to really just wait and see exactly what it looks like, because we didn't get a very good glimpse during OTAs and minicamp when they did zero contact whatsoever. But I think pending at left guard makes a lot of sense to me. I think a top 10 pick at left tackle makes sense to me. I think moving Fuaga to the right side, where he was really, really good in college, you could potentially take a player who is really good as a rookie and make him even better, playing a position that's more natural for him. So I think there's a lot to like, but it's also just very flimsy, much like last year's team was. They obviously went through the ringer injury-wise, but they also just didn't have very much depth behind those guys. So I think they're kind of a little bit on thin ice still, especially at receiver. And especially talking about two guys who are both coming off of. They played in between them 12 full games last year. Olave appeared in 8, but 2 of those he played 2 and 8 snaps. So there's a little concern there. They don't really have much beyond those guys. So I feel good about it, but it's not an uneasy good, if that makes sense.
It does. Like I said, nothing's perfect, but I think that's the most important thing for this franchise right now is how much development can you get from Shough and how quickly. And I think every decision that they make has got to be geared around that. So with that kind of said, to kind of close things up here, salary cap wise, they finally have a little bit of room, a little bit of coin to spend here late in the cycle. And there's not a ton out there, but do you see a name or two that makes some sense here before we get closer to training camp?
Well, the one that really stands out is the one I also think that they have the least chance of signing. That's Keenan Allen. At this stage of his career, it is what it is with the Saints right now. Even if they're much better than people think they're going to be, that's a hard sell for a guy who's never won anything in his career, who might only have 2-3 years left in his career to come to a team that's clearly in this rebuilding stage. But I think he would be ideal if you could get him in and be you're going to be our move the chains guy. You're going to be the guy we need to go to when we need to have it, and give us a higher floor in case these 2 studs that we have on the outside are not able to make it through the full season. Beyond him, there's some guys out there who I think could help. Gabe Davis obviously is the guy they visited with. He's a guy who's coming off a really down year in Jacksonville, but has shown he can do it in the past, and would just add a different type of element to what they currently have. I just think there's guys out there, but there's also to consider they're still going to have to pay off some money on Derek Carr next year. They're still going to be in a little bit of not as bad, but a little bit of a cap bind next year. So if they can roll over a bunch of this money into 2025 or 2026 rather, like that might be something they're looking forward to doing, and then really getting themselves set up to just be like kind of free and clear in 2027.
Luke, we appreciate a little bit of time. We'll talk next week, man.
Sounds good, man.
Luke Johnson with The Advocate covering the New Orleans Saints. Good enough to give us time on Thursdays. And our Thursday shows are brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Look, this is just a different experience than most of you have probably had in terms of where you get your beef. If you're looking for sides or whole cows, big quantities of some of the finest beef in the nation, in the top 1% in the nation. And we're talking about ground beef, we're talking about ribeyes, fillets, strips, chuck roast, if you want to put something right there in the slow cooker, like all that you can have in your freezer for months if you just call my guy Sean Sagrera at Sagrera Farms. Call him at 719-1723. Their process is 3 years. It's 2 years on grass, finished on grain, dry-aged 45 days. And when you pick up your beef from Sagrera Farms, you're going to know that the entirety of what you bring home to put in your freezer comes from one animal. It's not a ton of different DNAs jammed into one, stuffed in a packing plant and pushed off. No, it's all one animal. And it's some of the finest beef in America, just 30 miles away from Baton Rouge. So call Sean Sagrera at 719-1723. Say, hey, 4th of July is coming up. I'm trying to get the grill fired up. I'm trying to get the smoker fired up. Get some of that premium Angus beef. Sagrera Farms. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. I'll step aside when we come back. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball. He was in the ballpark last night. We'll talk to him next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Safety is a big deal. And that's why every single model, from the entry level all the way to the highest end at Genesis of Baton Rouge, is an IHA top safety pick. Some of them are top safety picks plus. You're shopping for a new vehicle, obviously safety is going to be top of mind. Whether it's the sedan all the way up to the SUV, no matter the model you get, you're going to know you're in one of the safest cars on the road. Also, a luxury vehicle, and every new purchase comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty and 3 years of complimentary maintenance. It's all part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. Go by and see them. Airline at Pico, across from Women's Hospital. And check out the inventory online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. That's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody. And presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We are here at the Ameristar Casino, Council Bluffs, Iowa, just across the river from Omaha, Nebraska, where we watched a classic last night, and there's still more to be written in this 2025 College World Series. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team has been here for all of it, good enough to give us a little bit of time here on this Thursday. Joe, have you recovered from that one yet?
I think my heart rate's dropped a couple of beats, but not too much more than that. And I rode the elevator up last night with two older women who were LSU fans, and one of them said to the other, I didn't think I was going to make it. I thought they were going to have to defibrillate me. And I think that's probably how we all felt at the various points of the night.
Well, you probably saw me over to your left. I was just a mess. I don't do very well in those press box settings, but LSU got it done. Let's talk Arkansas first, because I think that's an important storyline here, and certainly one that we're familiar with down in Baton Rouge. How do you contextualize the end of that season and the way it happened?
Boy, for Arkansas, it hurts the most because you had a chance to believe, right? I mean, this team's been so consistent all season. Then you get to the postseason, and the bracket breaks pretty well. I mean, yeah, you knew you were going to have to go through LSU, but okay, considering how the bracket could have gone, that's manageable. So that happened. And then even last night, I mean, that team showed a lot of fight to come back the way they did. They tie the game, take a lead. Like, it seemed like they caught some breaks, right? Like, there's an error on Jared Jones, and it kind of looks like, hey, okay, they're playing this game out, the way they would have hoped, and then it's just one more what could have been for Arkansas, one more collapse, one more uncharacteristic thing. I mean, this was a great defensive team this season, and they just kind of forgot how to play defense at the end of that game there. And Look, I've long believed, and I believe this with Mike Martin too. I think it's the same thing with Dave Van Horn. There's no such thing as jinxes, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with these men that lead these programs that leads to these kinds of things happening. But what I do think is real is that these players are smart. They know the history. They know how much it would mean to Arkansas as an institution, as a program, to Dave Van Horn specifically, and that creates real pressure. And so I'm not saying Charles Davalon's thinking about this as he's slipping and falling in the outfield, but that can be a cumulative thing that you just carry with you as a team. And I think sometimes when you get in these pressure cooker moments, that kind of stuff that's been weighing on you, that's kind of how it ends up being expressed, and you playing a little bit tight. And I have to imagine that's kind of what we saw last night.
I'm a lifelong Cubs fan, and I heard the Cubs talk about it after they won in 2016. Like every single time we got into these moments, like you think about it, you can't turn that off. The years of history that kind of weigh on you, and until you break through, it's just a tough thing to do. And if Mike Martin's career didn't exist, I don't know if I would believe Dave Van Horn's at this point. Walk me through your vantage point of the ground ball to Aloy and what you saw in real time.
In the immediate moment, because he had to move to his right, when he makes the forced play at third, my first thought was, I don't hate that. It's a safe play. You get it out. You're still in a situation where, you feel like it's 2 outs now. You take care of the batter, you're okay. And I had a decent amount of confidence if I were Arkansas. And even in my own mind, I was like, okay, they'll get an out here. So in my immediate reaction was, I don't hate that. Now, I wouldn't have done that, but I didn't hate that. And it's kind of funny how the perception of from watching in the press box or watching it, in person versus watching the broadcast, because social media immediately blew up with a lot of criticism about Vahiva Aloy, and I kind of thought, like, that's crazy. Why are people so hung up on this? And then you find out, and this is not a criticism of Chris Burke, I think he's right. They were talking about it a lot on the broadcast, why he didn't go for 2. And so I think that's what's coloring a lot of that narrative. And fair enough to them, because I go back and watch the replays, and I've totally changed my mind. Like, you got to go for 2 there. The run at third doesn't mean anything, obviously. You're up 2. And then you've got to try to end the game there. And Stephen Milam's like, 3 steps out of the box? So in hindsight, it's an egregious mental mistake. But in the moment, I have to admit, without kind of those other contexts, when it happened, I just kind of thought, okay, well, that surprised me, but they're still in pretty good shape here.
Oh, man, it was amazing. Now the LSU side of things. I mean, what can you say about this team's resilience and the way that it played out last night?
It's impressive. There's something about, there's 2 pieces of this. One is that there is something about the name LSU or the Tigers across the front of the jersey that tends to do this to teams. They are a team that has that kind of aura with them. I think we've seen it with other teams in history. I think last year's Tennessee team was one of them, but LSU throughout history has kind of had this going. And they say getting 3 outs against the Yankees is different than getting the final 3 outs of a playoff game against the Orioles, for example. I think it's the same thing with LSU in college baseball. So I think we saw some of that, but also just the way this team is able to just find the right pieces at the right time, right? Like Zach Cowan has not had a great last month, let's call it, maybe 6 weeks even. It kind of felt like the jig was up a little bit with him, and they put him out there to start, and he was great. Everything looked sharp. The changeup was back the way we saw it earlier in the season. And then with some of the moves he pulled, not all of them weren't great, but I think one thing this coaching staff does an excellent job of is not treating a game on April 10th as just a game on April 10th. Like, yes, they want to win that game, but that coaching staff always has one eye on what's going to help us win the national title. And so you see some things with pitchers they haven't had to use in a while, or position players that get at bats at seemingly random times. They just kind of understand the bigger picture at all times, and I think that's what drives that, which is that in any given moment, they know who they trust, and it might not necessarily be the guy you or I think they would trust in that moment based on who we've seen lately. And so I just think that's so valuable in these moments, that they really have gamed out every scenario and know who they want to go to. And that speaks to the depth too, right? Because, I don't think Coastal Carolina has that same level of depth. They just have their guys, and it's going to be good enough or not. But LSU has options, and Jay Johnson does a masterful job of figuring out which option is going to be the best one in this specific case. And we saw it again last night.
Yeah, I got a text from a buddy that covers Arkansas from the press box yesterday and said, does he usually pinch hit for Stanfield? And I said, well, Brown's his chess piece, and he plays it sometimes in the 3rd inning, sometimes in the 9th inning, but he's going to play it if there's a righty on the mound, and he certainly picked a great time to do that last night. All right, Coastal's played a couple games at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. LSU fans may not have seen very much of them because of that. They're pretty good by my eye. Give me the elevator pitch on what Coastal's strength is.
They are professional. They move the ball well offensively. What I've been saying a lot this week is if they get a leadoff single, it is very likely that guy's not going to be left standing there by the end of the inning. Now, they may not score, but he's not going to be on first base. They're going to move him around somehow. So there's constant pressure. They make all the routine plays. They take all, if it's a dirt ball, they're going to take an extra base. They go first to third on singles, all that kind of stuff, which sounds a little cliche, but it really is true. You don't win 26 games in a row without doing all of that stuff pretty much flawlessly. Now, from the talent standpoint, where their bread is buttered, that I think actually makes this kind of a tough matchup for Coastal, is that they have kind of a mirror image of what LSU has on the mound in, okay, two guys that they feel like give them a chance to win every time out. And this is the first time all season where they're going to be in a series where, yes, Cam Fluke and Jacob Morrison are great pitchers, maybe two of the best 15 pitchers, maybe top 10 pitchers in the country starting the first two games of the series, but they're going to face off against two of the best 5 pitchers in the country, in Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson. And so that, to me, that kind of offsets a lot of what Coastal wants to do, because so much of what they do is predicated on those two guys being dudes. And to this point, they have been, but they've not played LSU. They've not played a team like LSU, and that's going to be different. They're also built similarly offensively. Like, unless you want to say it's Jared Jones, and I guess you could make that argument, LSU's lineup's not really one built around one or two centerpieces you're hoping the lineup gets back around to. Same thing with Coastal. I mean, Caden Bodine in leadoff spot's a nice piece, but he's more of a, he's a good offensive player and an excellent defensive catcher. Their lineup is going to be one that has to get something from everybody. And I just like LSU's lineup a little bit better. So it's an interesting matchup. I think it's the one we deserve as fans, because those two pitching matchups are just going to be just showcases for college baseball and the quality of pitching we have in the sport right now. But I have to imagine, LSU is sitting there thinking that they've got a little bit of an edge in a lot of the things that Coastal wants to do.
Beyond Morrison and Fluke, into the bullpen and the third starter, how do you feel about Coastal's talent level when those guys come off the mound?
Yeah, that could be a little bit of a difference maker. Now, it depends on what you value, right? Because I think LSU's high-end guys in the bullpen, whether it's Case and Evans or this version of Cowan, if they go back to him at some point, those guys are better than what Coastal has. That being said, I mean, Coastal probably goes 6 or 7 deep with guys they really, really trust. So I think there might actually be a little more quality depth for Coastal, but I think when you get into these 3-game series, that matters a little bit less, just the depth piece, because you're not going to use that many guys. And if you do need to, it probably means your starters didn't go deep, at which point it probably doesn't matter anyway. So that's where Coastal likes their depth, but I think the quality might be better on the LSU side. Now, if they do go to a third game, it's probably Riley Eichhoff, their Sunday guy, and he's just one of those classic Sunday college pitchers who throws a ton of strikes. And if there's a scenario where they've got him ready to go, and LSU on the other side has burned Case and Evans, and they have to go back to a Cowan or somebody else, like, I do think that gives Coastal a shot. Because I don't know that I'd necessarily say it's an advantage there, but I do think that levels the playing field a little bit, that they have a veteran, good college pitcher who's pitched in a lot of big games for Coastal over the years, that has now pitched twice in Omaha and pitched well. So that's where it gets tricky. I mean, Game 3s are always going to be tricky for these teams, but I do think for LSU, you really like to get this thing done in 2, because I do think there's a lot of variables that come into play that could tilt Coastal's way if we get to a third game.
We've got a couple days before baseball starts, Joe. I know you all have got a ton of coverage over at D1 Baseball. Tell Tiger fans what they can go find over the next couple of days before LSU and Coastal kick it off.
Yeah, we're going to have there's a great column if LSU fans want to relive kind of that crazy game. My colleague Aaron Fitt wrote a great column after the game that he posted in the wee hours there. I'm going to have something up on the Arkansas side of it, just kind of like the fact that here we are again. With Arkansas. Mark and I have a podcast, Highway to Hoover, should be up later this afternoon, so that'll be available, and we'll probably have some preview content as we go over the next couple of days, especially because we have a couple of days off where we're in a position where we actually do have a little more time maybe to put some preview stuff up, so I'm sure we'll have lots of other stuff that I haven't even conceived of yet up on the website before we have the first pitch here in a couple of days.
A lot of purple and golds making the trip up from Louisiana to Nebraska over the next 48 hours. If you're looking to kill some time and enjoy some college baseball content, check it out at D1 Baseball's SEC Extra. Joe Healy, good enough to give us some time on this Thursday. We'll see you in the press box this weekend, Joe. Thanks, man.
All right, see you, buddy.
That is Joe Healy. When we come back, we're going to close out the hour. I'm going to talk about something that we have not seen in 16 years that we're going to get to see this weekend. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody, and presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Huge shout out to our sponsors for making this possible, as I've been in Omaha since last Thursday. Officially been a week here in Council Bluffs and Omaha, and that is all thanks to the folks at Our Lady of the Lake, who were phenomenal in helping us, and certainly we appreciate those folks at GoFlow IV Spa as well as Yingling for making all of our travel possible. We hope you all have enjoyed the content that I've been able to provide for you here on the radio as well as at LouisianaSports.net. I got some help coming. Rivers and Alondra are on the way north right now, and they'll be here tomorrow. So we've got a lot coming for you over the next couple of days. I'll have my show here as usual 1 to 3 tomorrow, and then a special pregame episode of the for LSU and Coastal on Saturday. I'll be on from 2 to 4 from right here at the Ameristar in Council Bluffs before 6 o'clock first pitch over at Charles Schwab Field. So very, very much looking forward to that. I mentioned, as I teased into this segment, that we're going to see something we have not seen in 16 years in this weekend, and that is an LSU ace taking the baseball in a championship series. LSU played Florida in 3 games in 2023. Paul Skeens did not throw a pitch. LSU played Florida in 2 games in 2017. And Alex Lang did not throw a pitch. Paul Skeens was the National Pitcher of the Year and the number 1 pick in the draft. Alex Lang won 30 games at LSU over the course of his 3-year career and never threw a pitch in the championship series. You have to go back to 2009 when Lewis Coleman and Anthony Renato both pitched in the series against Texas to find an LSU ace taking the baseball in a championship series. And because last night went the way that it did, and Anthony Ianson did not come in because LSU did not have to close the game with a lead late, and because Cade Anderson did not come in the game and did not have to pitch today in a decisive game like Paul Skeens did 2 years ago, LSU has Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson lined up whatever order they want to use them. If you would like to throw Cade on normal rest Saturday to Saturday in Game 1, have at it. If you would like to get Anthony Ianson back out there after he threw 40 pitches in the game on Monday, you can do that too. You have carte blanche to do whatever you want. And that is a situation that LSU has not found themselves in 16 years. And it is so advantageous. We talk all year about having bullpen guys step up. And if you get into the loser's bracket, this guy might have to start a game. This guy might have to do that. You might have, and all these scenarios that could happen en route to trying to win a championship. And I tell you this all the time. We can have those conversations in Baton Rouge in February and March. It would be foolish if they did that in Lubbock or Tucson. Well, not Tucson. That's a terrible example. In Lincoln, Nebraska. Because they don't get to championship series. LSU does. And so I can have those conversations with you, the listener, like, this is what you might have to do in Omaha. And Joe Healy just said that in the last segment. Like, LSU does things with Omaha in mind 12 months out of the year. And now that Zach Cowan did that last night, that discussion's gone, y'all. It's gone. You've got a weekend series, and your entire staff is going to be ready to go because you've got 2 days off. I don't think Cowan will pitch on Saturday, but everybody else is ready to go. Like, Shores has been worked hard, and they may want to give him a day, but you can do whatever you want, and essentially this is now a weekend series. And that has not been the case for an LSU team chasing a championship in forever. It's an amazing feeling. It's one of the first things I thought of when they were mobbing Jared Jones in center field. It's like they got the pitching lined up. One of my buddies texted in our group text, and we got pocket aces. I hadn't thought of that term. I like it. It's a poker term, obviously, but that's what LSU's got now. And Joe just told you that in the last segment. Like, LSU might have 2 of the 5 best pitchers in the country lined up and ready to go. And, yeah, Coastal ambushed Alex Lang back in 2016. LSU can avenge that a little bit here 9 years later. Coastal left Jay Johnson's first national championship bid 90 feet away from home plate and closed out Arizona in the same year, 2016. So 9 years later, you look up, and Jay Johnson and this LSU program have a chance to get back what they lost that year against that opponent. It's kind of poetic in a way. and I was listening. Somebody sent me a Facebook message the other day, a listener, and said, LSU avenged 2017 in 2023. They can avenge 2016 in 2025 against that opponent. And it's true. There's an opportunity for that storyline to right itself. And it's very, very cool that LSU has put themselves in position to make that happen this weekend. So awesome stuff from the Tigers last night. We're not done talking about it. I'm going to spend the second hour talking about it and very much looking forward to that. I want to talk about Jared Jones at the top of the hour. Chris Blair is going to be with us in 20 minutes. He was on the call last night. His call is awesome. And Doug Thompson, once again, left the radio booth, which made me laugh really hard. He did for the Tommy White homer last year, and he did for the Jared Jones walk-off hit last night. It's a thing of beauty for the Duggar. We'll talk to Chris about that. If you missed any of the first hour, you can catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, review. You can find us on wherever you find your podcast and certainly on YouTube as well. We're here at the Ameristar in Council Bluffs. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We're going to step aside for SportsCenter, get you some national headlines. I want to talk about Jared Jones when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.